Most experts agree that a center mass hit with an appropriately loaded 12 gauge using quality buckshot or slugs inside of home distances, a single shot is as close as we can get to a guarantee of incapacitation. It's typically a one-shot affair to make a bad guy a non-threat. And if you ask those same experts about the AR-15 and the popular chamberings there, they will say generally that is a 3 to 5 shot affair to guarantee incapacitation. What you just watched was me shooting a drill with a Mossberg Shockwave, a high recoil, difficult to control 12 gauge shotgun or firearm from 10 yards at 3 targets that are 1 yard apart in 1.48 seconds. My first hit was 0.6 seconds. My second hit was 1.02 seconds. You could consider those targets are all likely immediately incapacitated. To duplicate that level of guarantee of incapacitation with an AR-15 would be much more difficult. If we're trusting the experts and we're going with the low end there, that 3 rounds to guarantee incapacitation, I would have to run that drill with a 0.5 uptime, a 0.1 splits across the board, and 0.2 transitions. Now, I can occasionally get 0.2 transitions, but I can't repeatably get 0.2 transitions, and nobody is repeatedly getting 0.1 splits at any distance, let alone 10 yards to A-zone. So that's not something I could do with an AR-15, and I'll go so far as to say that's not something really anyone alive could do with an AR-15. This scenario is one that is representative of several likely home defense scenarios. We can look at this drill as single bad guy, 2 bad guys, or 3 bad guys. In any of these cases, it would be difficult to replicate that performance with an AR-15. To get a single shot in 0.6 seconds on an AR is doable. To get 3 in 0.6 seconds from a compressed ready position, guys, it's not going to happen. So, and the longer the string gets, the more compounded those issues get. Let's just say we don't need those 3 rounds. Let's go with the very popular gamer option of the controlled pair or double tap, and we're going to say that that is your guarantee of incapacitation. Even there, it's not an easy task to meet those times. I would need something like a 0.5 uptime, 0.15 splits, and 0.2 transitions. Can I do that? Yeah, that's in the realm of possibility, but it would not be easy for me to do that back to back to back. And, well, that's with a gamer AR set up exactly how I prefer to run them. With a standard, higher recoil, less ergonomic and slick to run design, like your basic M4 clone, no, I probably couldn't come close to those times. But you're seeing me manage these 3 targets in that time with a Mossberg Shockwave. So if I were to use my shotgun of choice on this drill or this target array, a semi-auto gun like my Bird's Head converted 1301, I feel confident I could shave off a half second on those times. And then, and then you can see where I'm going. It really is impossible for the AR to keep up with that level of performance. While I love ARs, and I think in their realm they are excellent platforms for defense, there are some areas where a shotgun really shines, so much so that an AR couldn't touch it. A lot of that is because of the incapacitation rate or guarantee, and that guarantee, that one shot, as close as we can get to a guarantee of incapacitation, that lends itself to speed, right? Your speed of incapacitating multiple targets is phenomenal. And you generally, in a 5-shot gun, have enough opportunities to deal with a very large home invasion force. If we're talking about this Mossberg Shockwave, this gun has 5 in the tube and would sit with generally with 1 on the lifter with the forend or the slide to the rear. Sits open in its container ready to go. In order to bring that gun to bear, I just bring the slide forward, giving me a 6-shot gun with a side saddle that has an additional 6 on board. So I have 12 opportunities to hit, but I also have generally 12 opportunities to incapacitate. If we look at the AR-15, well, they're pretty similar. 30-round gun, going with 2 at the minimum to guarantee incapacitation, more likely 3. So you either have a 15 opportunity gun or you have a 10 opportunity gun. Even with the small 5-shot Shockwave, one scenario has it in the favor of the AR-15, one scenario has it in favor of the 12 gauge. But in both scenarios, you have to understand that your probability to miss goes up with every shot that you take. So a one and done on a bad guy is always better than needing follow-up shots. Now that said, that's not the gun that I would lean on for defense. I don't think it's the worst option ever, but I have much better options at my disposal. So let's talk about my 1301 versus my AR-15 for these scenarios. That is an 8+1 gun with an additional 7 shells on the side. So we have 15 opportunities to immediately incapacitate a bad guy. Generally, capacity leans towards the 1301 there. And if you're talking about doing reloads, well, number one, I don't think you're going to have a reload on you if you're defending your house with an AR. Maybe some of you guys got the plate carriers, but the odds of getting to that or needing it are very slim for both or any guns, right? You look at shotgun home defense scenarios or rifle home defense scenarios, it is very hard to find an event, I've never found one, where a reload was needed for either. So it should tell you something with the shotgun. Most of those guns are 5-shot capacity. A lot of those guns are 3-shot capacity. You're still not seeing people need a reload. Another issue I'm sure you guys will bring up for shotguns versus AR stuff is the range. Well, first off, let's talk about the environment that you would be defending yourself in. Most of you guys are in the US. Just generally though, if you're anywhere in just polite society, even if you're in third world society, you're probably not walking around with a long gun. You're probably not in a war zone. Even if you are in a war zone, you are more likely defending your home at your home in the confines of your home and no further than that if you are using a long gun for defense. So the need to reach out and touch someone in any scenario, in any state of society is slim for defense. It's slim. But I'm not saying it's impossible. And generally with any quality buckshot loading, you can run that gun with reliably putting all of the pattern on a bad guy all the way out to 25 yards. So for you suburbanites, just imagine generally from your front porch that is offset all the way across your yard into the middle of the street, right? And you don't need to do anything. But if you're swapping to slugs, well, all of a sudden you can stretch that gun a little bit further. Now I'll say that for range, this is one where the AR-15 has its place and the shotgun has its place. The AR can flex into short range and the shotgun can flex a little bit into long range, but the shotgun is generally much less flexible there. That's points for AR, but it's points for the AR in an environment that you are almost never going to encounter. So while I can land 50-yard slug hits on an A zone with relative ease, and while I can make repeatable shots on A-zone size targets at 100, I will say that anything past 50 yards is strongly in favor of the AR. It just is. I see this with myself. I see this with students. Generally, there's some range between 25 yards and 50 yards where most people will be able to carry more precise and rapid incapacitating volleys of fire with an AR versus a shotgun. Well, let's be real, guys. The odds of needing to take that distance shot are slim. You're much more likely dealing with something that is inside of 10 yards than you are with anything outside of 50. If you're going to barricade yourself in a room and put a muzzle on a door and hope that bad guy never enters, both an AR-15 and a shotgun can work. They have worked, documented cases. But for single guaranteed one-shot incapacitation and needing to immediately follow that up with the second dude in the stack, third dude in the stack of bad guys trying to enter that room, I would take a shotgun 12 gauge with double-aught flight control, 8-pellet double-aught buck all day long over an AR-15. If I'm going to leave that room and move around the house, well, here is where the AR has a little bit of advantage. The shotgun at any length, and when I say shotguns, guys, I mean anything in 12 gauge, is less maneuverable than a properly set up, similar sized AR. A good comparison here, if we take the Mossberg Shockwave or the Garrissar 118 that you've seen in some of my videos, these are roughly 26-inch guns, and we compare them to a 26-inch overall length AR set up like I like to set them up, you know, where I can cheek it in front of the actual charging handle. Well, I will say this, the AR is vastly more maneuverable. If I have to go clear rooms, if I have to go punch corners and do doorways, yeah, even with the bird's head grip, you have to understand the bird's head grip is right there against my cheek and the back of the grip is right behind my jaw. So, you know, what, this is 6 inches of the gun taken up and then the other 20 inches are in front of my nose. If we're talking about the AR-15, set up in the 26-inch OAL, right, configuration, like a 10.5 barrel and the short tube, bare tube that I like, things are different because I can cheek that in front of the charging handle. The charging handle is here and I have 5 inches of gun protruding behind my jaw. Essentially, if I stand proud, I have 5 inches of gun taking up the rest of the room that my back would. And that shortens that gun by about 10 inches. So a 26-inch gun for the Shockwave style, the Shockwave grip, bird's head grip, that's a 20-inch length from my nose to the muzzle. And with the AR set up like that, that's something like a 15-inch length from my nose to the muzzle. Displayed here, I have the length of the gun and the length of the shooting platform. Keep in mind that while I am showing the length of the shooting platform here, I didn't want to move the camera angle at all, so there's going to be a little bit of deviation there. So it would be safe to say that you could subtract 2 inches or 3 inches off of the overall shooting platform length of all of these guns just because the ruler and then the angle of the camera looking at that is adding a bit. Now for use of the AR or the shotgun outside of the home, I think the most important issue to focus on would be use of that long gun from inside and around a vehicle, because if we have an AR-15 or a shotgun on us outside the home, we are almost certainly inside of a vehicle. There are some distinct advantages between these two platforms. So off the bat, I'll just say for mobility and for the ease of sighted fire from inside of a vehicle, it's hard to beat that 10.5 AR setup in a cheek, compressed cheek configuration. Demonstrated that in other videos, but it's there. I can't replicate that with any of the 12 gauge builds yet. So there's a win. But for the other considerations, I think that just about everything else leans in favor of the shotgun. If you've taken a vehicle class, you have almost certainly done the shooting through a windshield demonstration that is the most popular Instagram thing ever. Shooting through a windshield, you have to know what's going on. So for pistols, if I were to sit in the driver's seat, press a pistol out to bad guy who's at the front bumper and take a shot through the windshield, with a pistol, any of the pistol projectiles are going to be at least, aiming here, my point of impact is actually going to be somewhere up here or generally over the head. In order to land hits, I'm going to have to target something like the belly button to get center mass hits. Now, ARs in 5.56, 300 black, 7.62 by 39, all of them perform pretty much the same through that auto glass. You're going to take that point of impact shift that the pistol had, and you'll divide it by 2. So if I put a dot on bad guy here and press an AR out and take a shot through that windshield, generally what I'm going to see is an impact somewhere about a foot above it instead of 2.5 feet that the pistol cartridges have. And the same is true with a good shotgun slug, really any shotgun slug. They're getting half the amount of deviation that the pistol calibers do. But what's really special about a shotgun is there's nothing that I've seen that beats a good flight control double-aught buck through a windshield. If I'm sitting in the driver's seat and I bring that 12 gauge up and I press a shot center mass here, I'm getting impacts right here every time. What is happening is this. For a pistol projectile, that pistol bullet, slower velocity, much more likely to react to environmental stuff. It hits the windshield and it follows the flat surface of the windshield, or I should say it hits the top of the windshield first, deflects down, hits the bottom of the windshield last, deflects up. With a rifle projectile, same thing, just less because it's zipping through there faster. With buckshot, I have a column of shot. So this is my column of double-aught buck, my 8 pellets, 2, 4, 6, 8. That column impacts that windshield in the first row of that column. Those 2 pellets, they're gone. They deviate wherever. I will say there's a decent amount of deviation there, some energy absorbed there. Still an issue to deal with, but the other 6 pellets are going through the hole that the first 2 created. So you see 0 deviation. Now, what about those 2 pellets? Well, okay, but when you look at the doctrine, accepted doctrine of shooting through a windshield, most instructors will tell you to fire at least 3 rounds. Put 2 through the windshield to deal with the deviation, and then the 3rd one goes through the hole that you created. It is much easier to do that with a single shot and much more likely to immediately incapacitate with a single shot of buckshot through a windshield than it is trying to manage creating a hole with a pistol or an AR with 3 rounds while a bad guy is moving and needing to possibly change your angle to fire through the same hole but a different spot that the bad guy's in. One trigger press gets you shot on bad guy. That's a big capability for a shotgun in a vehicle. Now the other one is obviously a gun set up to fight around barriers, which would be loaded with something like a barrier blind slug. And I'll tell you this, a barrier blind slug is an order of magnitude more effective at defeating barriers than any barrier blind ammo out of an AR or out of a pistol. All slugs are not created equal. Most slugs are terrible penetrators. Here's an example. Here is a 20-inch gun shooting a 1600 FPS 1-ounce Foster slug that is not making it through both sides of a vehicle. And here's an example of an excellent penetrating slug that is a low recoil slug. This is a federal true ball law enforcement slug. Reduced recoil, reduced velocity, and it's being shot out of a 12-inch barrel. And these are going through both sides of this car, like the car isn't even there. Tracking true, no deviation. The hits are where I want them to be. So do not think that more recoil equals more power or more penetration, and do not think that Foster slugs are at all adequate for penetration. You've got to have a design like the true ball slug or a Brennicky slug if you want to get through stuff. Now, I've done multiple caliber tests on that car and several other cars, and in what I see, the only platform that I would trust to allow me to punch through a car and get hits on a bad guy, well, the only thing I trust is those true ball slugs or hardened Brennicky slugs. That's it. If I'm talking about an AR-15, whether it's 5.56, 300 blackout, or 7.62 by 39, it doesn't matter. I will not rely on those rounds being able to go through even 2 layers of glass to land on target. The deflection and the deviation that happens there with all of those rifle rounds, it means that I would have to put a volley of shot through that car to guarantee hits. And while the whole punch a hole trick works, guys, it's not that simple, especially when you're dealing with a bad guy who is definitely not holding still. You're going to be moving, bad guy's going to be moving. That hole that you're creating is not going to be effective for more than, one 3-round burst, and it better be something like that, like fast splits. Or you could use a shotgun and use a single trigger press and have the best bet of getting through that barrier the first shot without sending so much errant fire into your surroundings. Thank you guys for helping me keep this going. It's a group effort here, so your likes, the subscriptions, the comments help. I love discussing stuff, the crazy shit you guys talk about in the comments. Cool. Also, you want to go the extra mile and help me actually pay for all these demos and do the thought exercises and the monetary side of it? Go on Patreon and show me some love. Patreon link is in the description. If you sign up for the all access level, you're going to get stuff that nobody else sees. So, thank you guys. Let me know what you want to see next. Keep training, stay safe.